I'm going to be replanting baby trees to their permanent spot. I'm going to start with that little tiny baby seedling right there at the edge of my sidewalk where I have a little flower bed. And I'm going to carefully get that with a shovel and replant it elsewhere where it can grow and flourish. I filled a 5-gallon bucket up about halfway with water before I start to dig up my little baby seedling trees. Now I have a shovel positioned a couple of inches away from the tree because I don't want to rip into its little roots. You might want to have a container handy to put your little seedling in while you transport it. I do have landscape fabric down, so it may be a struggle to get through at first, but I picked a sharp pointed shovel for this. You may have to go around the left and the right of the seedling to get a good position. Because the last thing you want to do is tear through those roots and kill the seedling before you even have a chance to replant it. You'll notice how I lift up the shovel and the whole tree is coming up with me. That's a good sign that I was able to get under the root. You'll notice that I got the tree and all the roots attached to it. Also, when you're digging nearby other trees and shrubs, you'll notice when you start digging, you're going to have roots in your way that are from other shrubs and bushes too. But just focus on the little seedling and making sure you get its roots. And don't worry about any noises that you hear when you're digging up the plant. It may sound like the roots are ripping, but most likely it's because you're encroaching on roots from other plants. Picking out a spot can be challenging too. So I thought I would start with this area here. I do have some fern. They're gone by now for the season. They usually come out in full bloom in the summer months, but we didn't have much rain this season, and I think that accounts for a lot of the dryness in them. I do have some trees growing that I don't want growing right there. So I'm going to start by cutting them down, clearing a little spot here, digging a hole, and putting my seedling in it. I used a hacksaw to get those little trees down. Normally I would use my chainsaw, but because they were so little, I wanted more control over where the trees fell. You can see the stump of the first tree I cut down. And I also want to remind you, when you are doing this, please wear gloves. I actually forgot to put my gloves on before I started cutting, but I was already in the middle of cutting, so I let it go without gloves. But you should always wear gloves for your protection. I'm now going to start clearing away this area to make room for my seedling. You'll notice also when I was cutting down the small trees, even though I was using a hacksaw, you still want to be careful. Sometimes when you're cutting a tree, it doesn't fully cut through all the way and the tree splits. Even if it's an inch, 2 inch, 3 inch diameter. If it's a tall tree, at that split, when you cut through it with your hacksaw or your chainsaw, it can pop up and hit you in the face. So you want to be very, very careful, even if it's a really small tree, even if you're just cutting it with a hacksaw and not using a chainsaw like I did in one of my prior videos. Right now I'm going to be digging in this area and cleaning up spots for my little seedling. You'll definitely want to wear some good gloves for this. I have found out that these Echo brand gloves are great for prickers. Prickers can't penetrate the leather in these gloves. So as I was cleaning up the area and getting ready to dig, I noticed a ton of wild grapes growing. Look at these perfect little grapes. Oh my goodness, that is amazing. They're all throughout here, just laying on the forest floor. Now, I don't usually grow grapes intentionally. I cut them before they grow, but this year I have such an abundance of them, and I'm just going to leave them for the birds, leave them for little critters, wild animals. If you didn't see one of my last videos, I showed all the grapes growing and all the different colors they are before they turn into big grapes. And look at here, here's some more just hanging there, ready to eat. They're just so beautiful, and I'm just so thankful that I have these for all the wild critters. So I just cleared off just a small patch of land, like a very, very small, maybe a 2 foot by 2 foot section. To the left, I have ferns that grow. To the right, I have grapes that grow. So I'm just gonna start here with this little section. One thing to note about replanting seedlings. Some people use peat moss, some people use potting soil. I use whatever I have in the ground already that's natural here to this earth. As you see, there's dead leaves and other things. First of all, birds absolutely love anything like this that's loose. So you'll notice I'm not raking it up and throwing it away. I'm keeping it here because as the birds build nests, they'll pull from this. Second thing is it mulches down naturally. When you plant the seedling, it's going to mulch back down into the earth, and that's what you want because you want a protective layer for when it's winter time. If it snows in your area like it does here, it helps the roots establish before next spring when everything turns green again. So you really want to keep all the natural elements that you can when you're replanting a tree. I have my gloves back on and I'm ready to go. You want to take a good strong metal shovel with a pointy tip, only because Anything that hasn't been dug in, or anything that hasn't been rototilled, or anything that isn't already a garden mix of soil is going to be hard to dig through. There are tree roots, there's vine roots, there's all kinds of roots here. So this is going to be a little bit of digging. So that first dig was pretty tough. Like I said, there's a bunch of vine roots and tree roots in there. And you want to make sure that when you dig a hole big enough to stick the root in. But you also want to make sure that you have extra depth and circumference around the root to put fresh soil on top to get that root nice and established. If you put too little dirt around that root, it's not going to reroot and it's not going to grow. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've dug the hole. The hole is big enough for the little seedling. And now I'm taking my shovel and I'm just loosening the soil because you want the roots to have a nice healthy base to reroot in. So I'm loosening that soil up. And it's the natural elements of the earth, the same elements from the other side of my yard where the seedling came from. So you're going to take your water, you're going to fill the hole with water. You're going to take the little root ball of the plant that you're replanting. I'm going to dig out the weeds from this one because I don't want the weeds planted. But careful not to take out any of the actual seedling roots. And you're just going to put that in that hole very carefully. And anything loose, such as these leaves, you can put right in that hole. They make a very good mulched down protective border of those roots. Anything that has a lot of roots in it, you don't want to reuse in your planting. It's okay to bring over dirt from another section of your yard if you don't have enough to bury the root. And then you notice I put a layer of leaves over the top. So when you do yours, if you want to put mulch over the top, that works as well. I just don't have any mulch on hand, and I wanted to get this seedling planted today while I had some time. Today is the 1st of September, and it's a good idea to plant in spring or fall when you're dealing with little seedlings. And I have a lot to get to in my yard, so this was the first of many. I just wanted to give a little tutorial of how I do it. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoy. If you have any comments about how you do your seedlings, please leave them below. Thank you so much. Take care.